Hello and welcome to the new My Football Club podcast. Well, on this show, it's no music and just talk. I'm your host, Augustine Sasso. You can email me at augustine.sasso@myfootballclub.co.uk. I'm backed up with my interviews, so I'm putting them all on the podcast, no music, and time to catch up. So the first interview is from last week. I talked to Charles about the then upcoming St. Albans match, a little about the AFC Wimbledon Cup tie, and then the Fleet Player of the Past, Steve Brown. And then Charles and I propose the Epps Fleet Hall of Fame as a way to honor the past players and celebrating the Fleet's history. I think this idea has been around a while, but here we first talk about it. Charles just sort of springs it on me, and I think you'll find it interesting. Now, about 20 minutes in is our next interview, and that was from this week. And of course, it's the AFC Wimbledon preview. We analyze the difference in the Fleet play from last year and then this year. We talk a little bit about the win at St. Albans, another win. Boy, things are really getting boring. The Fleet seem to have just enough to win, but is that the sign of a good team? Listen in. I think you know the answer. Then we talk about Tony Sitford, the Fleet coach with the longest tenure. And who is fast approaching that record? Current coach, Liam Daish. Here now are my interviews with Lord Charles. So they just keep rolling on.
You know, it's such a difference from last season, when every week was difficult. I'm not saying the games are easier this year, but they're much more competitive. And where we struggled to put together a competitive side early in the season, you know, this year we've been, I think Liam would use the phrase at it right from the off. And, you know, there's some momentum building, and 11 games unbeaten is quite a record. And another away game tomorrow at St. Albans at Clarence Park. I think the Fleet can go there with some degree of optimism for the form that they've been building.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I was looking at their record, and they've got one win, 6 draws, but mostly lately they've been playing inconsistent, so it's hard to say what team is going to show up. But I believe, like you, that if we play right, go make mistakes and not have any bad luck, we should.
I agree, absolutely. That if the Fleet play to their potential in any game in this division, they're capable of winning it. Okay, we've not played Chelmsford yet, but we've played Braintree, we've played Dover, we've played Bromley. You know, they're the sides that are up there, and Dover beat us in a very good game where they were easily the better side on the night. But otherwise, you know, the Fleet have, I think, held their own very much in every game they've played. And I think a side like St. Albans, who have not been tearing up the league this season, you know, they're probably going to be more worried about Ed Fleet than the Fleet would be about them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that Dover match was early on in the season. I think when we get the return match, even though I think it's going to be on the road, I think the Fleet will have a good chance of winning.
I think that's a very good point, and somebody made it on the Fleet Forum this week, that when we played Dover, this brand new side that we've got, we're still getting to know each other. And as each game has progressed, they've formed a better understanding, they've become more of a cohesive unit, and you can see them growing in stature with every game. And, I mean, last week in the Cup against Boreham Wood, I mean, you know, really, in my opinion, I think Liam disagreed with me. He felt that we played at a good pace all the way through. But I thought we had a couple of gears that we could have gone through if we'd have needed to have raised our game. But against a fairly mediocre opposition, we did what we had to do, and we put them to the sword. We got the three goals and went through to the next round. And that big game next week, once again on the road at AFC Wimbledon, where of course we'll come up against our old chum Luke Moore, who, when he scored for Wimbledon last season against the Fleet, refused to celebrate in front of the Fleet fans, which shows a great deal of class by the youngster, who was really brought through the ranks at Ed Fleet and is now really a mainstay of that Wimbledon side.
Boy, you know, in many ways, and I'd like to talk to you more about it next week, but I can't help myself. I think in many ways, this game against AFC Wimbledon will probably, well, should be the toughest match so far, but might be our toughest match the whole season, except for Chelmsford and anybody else that shows up, you know, later on in the season.
Well, you know, even if we got to Wembley in the trophy final, you know, we're not going to come up against a side better than Wimbledon because they're top of the conference, at the Conference National. So they're top of the pile at the moment. You know, so if we beat Wimbledon in the FA Cup, of course we could play a league side. We could play a side further up the pyramid. But if we lose next week, they will certainly be the strongest side that we will play this season. And I think purely from a performance point of view, it would be a great yardstick to see how much this side has developed. And in many ways, I think the side that's going there next week in the FA Cup is stronger than the one that went there last year in the league.
Yeah. And I was just trying to make a connection with the Luton win last year, where if we win in 2 weeks against AFC Wimbledon, it would be akin to that. I'm saying, you know, against, because Luton, even though at the time when we won, they were having their troubles, it was still a massive win for us, and I think it would be the same thing if we were to win against AFC Wimbledon.
I agree. I mean, we've said it before, and I'm sure I'll repeat the cliche again, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. And at Luton, we comprehensively beat them, even if they were going through a very sticky patch and were quite a poor side. But, you know, we played ever so well. They didn't. We won. End of story. Now, next week, AFC Wimbledon, you know, they're top of the Blue Square Premier, and I think this season they've got one thing on their mind, and that's Football League status. Now, it's possible, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible they may not play to their full potential. Well, if they don't, and we do, we get the win.
Yeah.
I'll take a replay, though, because we could do with a home game, and then see them off at Stonebridge Road in front of about 4,000 in a replay. That would be a good night out.
Yes, absolutely right. I was thinking back to Saturday's win and just going over the match report, and I guess the unsung player is Rand Marwa, or at least he was mentioned, but he's doing well. And then we don't hear much about Preston Edwards, which I started to think, well, that's a good thing. And we have 4 clean sheets in a row. So the back line is solid. And you know, what would you say to that?
I think every side needs a Rand Marwa. You know, every side needs somebody that's going to do the scuffy, dirty work in midfield. You know, carry the ball from defence to attack, always be available, you know, be a point where other people know that he's always going to be there to help them out. You know, he really is an unsung hero. And you talk about that back line, you know, even players like Derek Duncan that have been in and out through injury, they've had their ups and downs, but, you know, he settled down into that left-back position. Clint Easton has come into the centre of defence. You know, Dean Cooley can't get in the side because Easton's playing so well. And the partnership is formed with Paul Lorraine. At the moment, it looks like possibly the best centre-back partnership we've got. And then at right-back, I mean, the man that Liam always seems to mention when I interview him is Craig Stone. Now, Craig Stone, you know, was always really regarded as a midfield player, But this season he's played most of his games at right back. And now that Joe Howe has come to the club, there's a possibility that Joe could drop in at right back and Craig could move into midfield. So, there's some really, really positive options available to Liam. But the most encouraging thing is that everybody appears to know their job. They get on with it, they go out there and they deliver. No fuss, no frills, no fancies, no superstars, everybody pulling for each other. And, at the top of the tree you've got Callum Work up there, certainly one of the nicest guys I've ever met in football. And, you've got the youngsters like Biff and West buzzing around. The combination that we've got, it's got all the ingredients for a successful side.
Yeah, and so they've proven it. So, let's hope tomorrow, they'll come through. I was just reading a little bit about St. Albans. I didn't know this, but for most of their existence, they were in the lower leagues, and the past 10 years, they've been making some noise moving up. I see they've got a player named Peter Smith. I don't know much about him. Seems to have been one of their better players the last month and this month. Do you know anything?
I don't know anything about Peter Smith, but St. Albans are a club that we played a few times in league action, primarily when we were in the Ryman League.
Mm-hmm.
We played them a few times. And there was one game I remember going to their ground, Clarence Park, and we won up there. And it was a game that featured a player that went on to play in the Premiership with Fulham and Hull. That was Jimmy Bullard. And he was playing for the Fleet then. And he was absolutely in electrifying form when we won up there. And, it's going to bring back good memories going there. Tomorrow. And I also remember winning there on an occasion. It was Liam's birthday a couple of seasons ago, and that was quite a memorable occasion as well. I think Liam went home happy that night.
Wow. And the game will be broadcast.
The game will be broadcast. Live commentary will be available on the World Wide Web wherever you are, which is one of those occasions where an away game is certainly going to get the full BBC Radio King coverage. Sadly, next week in the FA Cup, because mainly of FA restrictions and budgets, they're only going to be broadcasting one commentary, and that's going to be the big Kent side, Gillingham against Dover, and Ebbsfleet, Dartford. We're going to miss out on and Hythe Town. We're going to miss out on the commentary next week. So make the most of tomorrow, folks. We'll be there live and in living colour. I'm sure that Wixie will be sitting alongside me to deliver his words of wisdom. And I'm looking forward to it immensely.
Yeah, great. And you said Hythe Town, they won.
Well, yeah, Hythe Town, they've got a draw against Hereford United away. Hereford, bottom of the Football League. We played there in the conference. And, they're a club with a lot of pedigree, a lot of history. The ground's that to do with improving, and they're just about to announce a new manager. So Hythe Town, they're the lowest ranked club in the FA Cup this season at this stage. And they're from the Kent League, and so they're our neighbours from East Kent. They're about 70 miles or so away from Ebbsfleet, and we wish them all the very best in their endeavours. And I guess that we probably wish Dover well in their tussle with Gillingham, because there's a lot of bad blood there with Andy Hessenthaler, the Dover manager, walking out to join Gillingham, and then his replacement, Mr. Hendon, coming in from Barnet. He replaced him at Dover, only to leave a few days later to join Hessenthaler at Gillingham. So it's going to be explosive off the pitch. In the ballroom, I'm sure they'll be greeting each other warmly by the throat. But on the pitch, I'm sure it'll be a real FA Cup side filled with all the usual gusto. So I think that'll be one, not necessarily for the purists, but if you like FA Cup blood and thunder, it'll be down there at Priestfield next week.